Gonna be happy to talk about some buy low wide receivers here. I mean, last week, our number one guy was Mike Williams. Ignore the fact that we had Kyle Pitts on that list. You may see him again today. But of course, before we get into this, make sure you go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. And if you want to come out to our live stream to get your questions answered, which we are streaming every single night, make sure you hit that bell next to the subscribe button. And if you can't make it to the live stream, feel free to ask any questions you have down there in that comment section. I'm going to be responding to at least 200 comments on this video. And of course, you will see some player props on the screen during this video. Those are brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Over there on Underdog Fantasy, you can check out all those cool player props. And we are going to be getting in 2022 best ball drafts in the middle of this season on those live streams. If you want to go draft with us, if you want to go check out a player prop, go sign up for Underdog. Use promo code FLOCK. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 200, and you'll get our 2022 rankings. Let's go through. Let's dive into this. Let's lead it off with our first wide receiver here, which is going to be Keenan Allen. Now, Allen is a wide receiver I've drafted a lot this year because I wanted a piece of the Los Angeles Chargers offense. Didn't feel that comfortable drafting Austin Eckler in the first. Didn't feel comfortable really drafting Mike Williams with where he was going in front of Keenan Allen in drafts. But Keenan Allen, extremely safe option that I thought had a high ceiling, and that this is a wide receiver that over the past 3 years has had an average finish of wide receiver 10 on a points per game basis. He has had a target share over 25%. He averages about 10 targets a game. So in a PPR format, Keenan Allen is the perfect guy that you want. I know a lot of people were willing to say, well, Mason, Mike Williams is the wide receiver one here. I understand Mike Williams looked great last week. Like I said, Mike Williams was on our buy low video last week because I agree. Whenever Keenan Allen is not in the game for the Los Angeles Chargers, Mike Williams is that wide receiver one. Mike Williams is that elite level option. However, when Mike Williams and Keenan Allen have both been healthy on the field together historically, outside of about a 5-game stretch at the beginning of 2021, they decided to use Mike Williams as an alpha X wide receiver in that 5-game stretch. But outside of that time period, you've had Mike Williams as the deep threat in this offense, where you have Keenan Allen soaking up the targets underneath. Now, Mike Williams, maybe you make the argument he's more important for the Los Angeles Chargers than Keenan Allen because he provides that big playability, because safeties have to focus in on Mike Williams and they can't let him take the top off this defense. And that creates so much space underneath for Keenan. But from a fantasy football standpoint, I prefer the guy that's going to get targeted. I prefer the player that's going to get the volume. And we saw that week 1 with Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen was like the wide receiver 1 for the Chargers week 1, and the man played a quarter of football. I think he gets back. He is the wide receiver 1 for Justin Herbert. Wednesday, he was participating in individual drills. Of course, we're going to have to continue to monitor the practice reports for Keenan Allen leading up until Sunday. Maybe you're not super excited to play him right this week, but I think if we can trade for him on the cheap right now and possibly get that elite level ceiling down the stretch, that would be great. A move that I'd be looking to make is possibly take 2 depth wide receivers for yourself, possibly take someone like Curtis Samuel and Devonta Smith, Curtis Samuel and Darnell Mooney, and go get Keenan Allen that way. But now our next wide receiver is someone that I do not want you to trade for right now. Please do not go through and trade for him right this second, but instead, I need you to put him on your watch list, set a little reminder on your phone. Go, okay, remind me in 1 to 2 weeks to trade for DeAndre Hopkins. With DeAndre Hopkins, we see this every single year. It's very funny. It shouldn't work this way, but in reality, it does. Every single year, these guys that are maybe going to miss a month, about 2 months of the season, they are valued more in your fantasy football draft than they are 2 to 3 weeks into that suspension. Because right now, everybody's focusing on submitting their starting lineups. They're focusing on what just happened through the first 2 weeks. And of course, you've had no DeAndre Hopkins. You're not going to get DeAndre Hopkins back until week 7. But I think we have clearly seen how important DeAndre Hopkins is to this Arizona Cardinals offense. I would even attach Kyler Murray to this buy low, because if we're going to go through, if we are going to look at Hopkins, this is a wide receiver that when he has played with Kyler Murray, the 26 games of Kyler Murray's NFL career, Kyler Murray has averaged 26 points per game. He's averaged 259 passing yards per game. Whereas the 22 games that Kyler has not had DeAndre Hopkins, instead he's averaging 20 points per game, so 6 points less per game, and 236 passing yards. It's a night and day difference. I think Hopkins comes back in week 7, is the immediate wide receiver 1 here in Arizona. I think he could be that low-end wide receiver 1 rest of season. And in reality, because he's already 2 weeks closer to coming back, he should be more valuable than he was at the time your league mate drafted him. I think that it's a clear buy low opportunity. Maybe not even now. Maybe you wait another week and then go through and try to trade someone like Garrett Wilson and Darnell Mooney and go get DeAndre Hopkins. Now, our next wide receiver is also a long-term play here. I think we go Godwin. I know a lot of people have been disappointed here with the Tom Brady-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers so far. Well, hell, they played 2 extremely weird games. Week 1 against the Cowboys, I mean, their defense just shut down the Cowboys offense. Cowboys have a good defense themselves. So it was an interesting spot where you didn't want Tom Brady going through and throwing the ball aggressively. You had Chris Godwin leaving the game halfway through week 1. And in week 2, obviously Godwin misses, but people are still a little bit worried about Brady here because in week 2, Tom Brady didn't have his best performance, but he was going up against the New Orleans Saints. We know that Tom Brady, historically speaking, struggles against the New Orleans Saints, or at least he has during his time in Tampa. Also, you had Julio Jones not playing. You had Chris Godwin not playing. Mike Evans was banged up. Russell Gage was banged up. Leonard Fournette was banged up. You're telling me that Brady's going up against a defense that he has struggled with in recent past, and he has none of his weapons? I think long-term, Chris Godwin comes back from this hamstring injury in probably about 2 weeks. And when we do get Godwin back, you're not going to play him right away. But when he is fully healthy, if we assume that Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense are going to be going back to trying to rack up as many passing yards and passing touchdowns as possible, I think Godwin's probably in a very good spot. It's just been a really weird time in Tampa over the past 2 weeks. Now our next guy, my number 1 buy low, buying low on him everywhere I can, Deontay Johnson. Now with Deontay Johnson, a lot of people were worried coming into this season. I had people telling me, Mason, stop drafting Deontay Johnson as much as you are. Ben Roethlisberger was the only reason he had these targets. I mean, Chase Claypool's going to have a bigger role this year. Are you freaking kidding me here? No, Deontay Johnson averaged 10 targets a game over the past 2 seasons in 2020 and 2021. And I thought, well, that may not necessarily be true, that it was just Ben Roethlisberger. And Ben Roethlisberger was a bad quarterback at the same time. I'm not expecting the Pittsburgh Steelers to be significantly worse. Well, Deontay Johnson through the first 2 weeks has had 10 or more targets both games with no Ben Roethlisberger. Week 1 dealing with the shoulder. Week 2 tough matchup against the Patriots. I think that long term, hopefully Kenny Pickett's going to be an upgrade here over Trubisky. You're clearly still getting this volume going towards the direction of Deontay Johnson. Now, if it's a non-PPR format, I would be fine if you wanted to avoid Deontay because this will be a wide receiver that doesn't have access to a crazy amount of touchdowns he's playing in Pittsburgh. But for a full PPR league, I mean, if the target volume is going to be there, sign me up for Deontay Johnson. Now, our next player, I hate to bring him up. I told you to draft him. I told you to buy him low after week 1. So a regular person, someone who is maybe smart, would come here, take their L, they would roll over and go, I'm sorry, I apologize. But no. Kyle Pitts, double or nothing, let's run it back. With Kyle Pitts, I get it. Atrocious. I believe through the first 2 weeks, we've had identical stat lines here for Kyle Pitts with 2 receptions, 19 receiving yards. Drake London, bona fide stud. Drake London, out of the 25 pass attempts from Marcus Mariota in week 2, commanded 12 of those. Almost 50% of Mariota's targets going in the direction of Drake London. So Kyle Pitts is a player that is appropriately plummeting in value right now. But I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to take 10 steps back here. And I'm going to look at Kyle Pitts as the best tight end prospect of all time. Undoubtedly. Nobody's going to argue with that. Then possibly put up the best rookie tight end season of all time. Not even one of the best rookie tight end seasons of all time, but one of the best rookie receiver seasons of all time. If we go through and look at 21-year-old rookies since the year 2000 that were able to command 6 targets per game, not only 6 targets per game, but say 63 receiving yards per game, just like Kyle Pitts. Here were the players. Justin Jefferson. Not sure if you've heard of him. He's pretty good. Jamar Chase. He's all right. Keenan Allen. Oh, someone else that was on this video. Amari Cooper. I mean, whatever. Juju Smith-Schuster. Remember what you got 2017, 2018. Mike Evans. Not sure if you've heard of this guy, Mike Evans, but trust me, he's pretty good. And Kyle Pitts. Kyle freaking Pitts on this list of stud level receivers. I know he's had a very disappointing 2-week stretch here. I get it. I understand why you're frustrated. I just think it would be the craziest thing ever for Kyle Pitts to go out there and do that as a rookie and then fail year 2. I didn't even like Kyle Pitts as a rookie because I thought people were overdrafting him as a top 5 guy before we saw anything. But after we see that his rookie season, I'm willing to go through and say this player is a freaking stud. The situation doesn't look great, but we're going to be getting a severe discount on him. Now let's go over to our next guy. Going to be a rookie here. Let's look at Trey Burks. Now I understand, yes, Ryan Tannehill and the Tennessee Titans looked horrendous on Monday night. We talked about Tennessee having the worst offensive line over the past 5 years compared to what they're used to. We talked about Tennessee also seeing the dramatic step back with their passing down efficiency with no A.J. Brown here. This is why I wasn't a big Derrick Henry guy coming into this season. But honestly, I don't think it's going to be as bad as what we saw this past week, where you're looking at a combined 24 pass attempts for Ryan Tannehill and Malik Willis this past week, and you had a whopping 123 passing yards. 123 passing yards for the Tennessee Titans and 2 interceptions with 0 touchdowns. Disgusting, disgusting, disgusting. But let me remind you what this Buffalo Bills defense just did. I mean, I think the Buffalo Bills are by far and away the best team in the NFL. I think it's their game to lose. And if we look at what they did to Matthew Stafford at week 1, Matthew Stafford didn't look great either. Matthew Stafford, 41 pass attempts, 240 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. While I think there are serious concerns here to be had with this overall offense for the Tennessee Titans, at the same time, I don't think they're going to be as bad as what we just saw on Monday night. So I don't want to overreact too much. And you did have the rookie here in Treylon Burks leading this team in receiving, 4 receptions, 47 receiving yards. I mean, have 47 receiving yards when your team throws the ball for about 120 passing yards. You're telling me we're getting over 33% of the market share here in this passing game going to a rookie receiver in his 2nd NFL game ever? Treylon Burks was a rookie that checked every single box. I think that he is going to be maybe in the same shoes as what we're looking at with Garrett Wilson, where Garrett Wilson just broke out to that extreme measure week 2. We had the flashes of that Garrett Wilson breakout in week 1. So I don't know, maybe you want to go through, try to get Treylon Burks on your team before it's too late. Now, keep in mind, we're not going out there and offering, Mike Williams to get him. Of course we're not doing that. I think you try to trade for him at a slightly cheaper price than what Garrett Wilson would cost you right now. And now let's go over to our next rookie receiver, someone that was a few big catches away from having a massive game, Chris Olave. Now with Chris Olave, the teammate of Garrett Wilson, the teammate of Jameson Williams, the teammate of Jackson Smith and Jigba, who will be the wide receiver 1 next year. I know a lot of people were worried about Chris Olave coming out of Ohio State. I said, don't worry about these Ohio State prospects. These guys were playing against each other, skewing their overall statistics because this was one of the best wide receiver rooms in college football history. And with Chris Olave, if you're looking at the immediate box score, you love to see the targets. He led the New Orleans Saints in receiving with 5 receptions and 80 receiving yards. But if you look at where he is getting targeted, this is the deep threat here for Jameis Winston in this New Orleans Saints offense. So I think maybe if we just look at the overall positional group here in New Orleans, where we have Michael Thomas, historically, we know he likes the slant. Jarvis Landry, historically, really close to the line of scrimmage. Alvin Kamara, a running back. The 3 main players that are competition for Chris Olave and his target share here kind of all operate in the same area of the football field, where Chris Olave is that deep threat receiver, where we know that Jameis Winston is that DGAF quarterback. Maybe you're worried about Winston getting replaced sometime soon. I'll definitely say we want Jameis Winston here for Chris Olave. We don't want Andy Dalton coming in. Andy Dalton maybe would bump up Michael Thomas. You want Winston for Olave. I think that you could also see a massive spike week here in favor of Chris Olave. But that's all I got for you. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Of course, if you did, go down there, drop a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Hit the bell next to the subscribe button if you want to come out and ask us a question in the live stream tonight. And if you can't make it to the live stream, just feel free to drop any questions you have down there in the comment section. But thank you again. I appreciate you. Hope we get to see you with the live stream tonight. If not, have a great day.